What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back, everyone. This is Lee, and yes, today's the day we'll be talking about the Nikon Z6II versus the Canon R6. So, without further ado, let's begin. So Nikon versus Canon. This series has been going on for such a long time. We started with the R5 versus the Nikon Z7, and then we transitioned to the Z6II versus the RP, and now we have the Canon R6 versus the Nikon Z6II. And keep in mind, in my test, we're using the same exact lens. We're using the Sigma 24mm 1.4 lens, and also we're using the same exact settings. Now, at the end of this video, you guys get to see the whole side-by-side comparison. I'm just gonna give you guys the quick summary. Now, in terms of color, Canon, they do have the Canon colors. It's just typically warmer than normal. And this is something you guys will get at the end of the day with auto white balance turned on. Now, you could always adjust this to your liking, but this is something that we have seen from the R5 to the RP, now to the R6, and also with the Nikon Z7 and the Z6II. It's a two worlds of difference. So if anyone tells you about the Canon or the Nikon, just tell them that the Canon is always a tad warmer. Just keep that in mind. Now, in terms of ISO performance between 20 megapixel versus 24, there wasn't a huge dramatic difference, I would have to say. I mean, I couldn't find anything to poke on except when you downsample the 24 megapixel to match the 20, it looks more or less the same. So that's not a big deal. So at that point, if you do have a 20 megapixel camera, it's pretty much a hair cleaner than the 24, obviously. But if you have the 24, if you're downsampling to Instagram or downsampling to a 20 megapixel file, it looks more or less the same, right? So that is not a big deal. Now, and as for dynamic range, both cameras do pretty well pushing up 2 stops. And then I made my test a lot harder, of course. And in the end, the Canon R6 do fall apart just like its big brother, the R5. The Canon just doesn't handle dynamic range that well in my test. The Nikon Z6II and the Nikon Z7 seems to do pretty well in all my tests versus the Canon. And if you take a look at this chart right here, this clearly tells you that the Canon R6 is denoising their files. Yeah, explains a lot about why we are seeing all these weirdness. And if you take a look at the Nikon, it's pure raw files, right? So keep that in mind. And also, you look at DxOMark, they always rank Nikon higher than the Canons for that particular reason, because you just saw in my test, Canon in general doesn't do that well in dynamic range performance versus a Nikon system. So there is a clear difference between a Canon and a Nikon system. So if you're shooting a lot of landscape photography, a lot of astrophotography, a lot of indoor photography, you're doing photogrammetry, definitely I'll recommend the Nikon because you're able to push and pull the shadows, whereas the Canon, it will eventually fall apart when you hit a certain limit. So with all that said, thank you guys for checking me back. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely click like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the merch store. And yep, take it easy. Peace.